Horizon Zero Dawn began its public life with confused anticipation, when Guerrilla Games, famous for doing generally well-liked linear first-person shooter series Killzone, announced they would be doing a third-person, open-world adventure game. People were understandably a bit skeptical. Luckily, the result was one of the best games of 2017, a year already filled to the brim with good games. Even before knowing the level of success the game would attain, it seems Guerrilla had already planned for a sequel, with an ending that I'll call, without getting too spoilery, wide open. As my personal favorite game of 2017, I wanted to take some time to discuss some of the things I would like to see in the next entry of the Horizon series. I'll just get this first one out of the way: better climbing. In an altogether fantastic game, the climbing in Horizon Zero Dawn was simply fine at its best moments and downright frustrating at its worst. Sometimes your jump wasn't quite perfect enough to grab that ledge, and sometimes you ended up jumping straight off a cliff, grazing that tightrope you were aiming for. I even had a couple instances where I was standing on one of the handholds of a sheer cliff because Aloy pulled herself up onto it, rather than jumping to the next handhold. The climbing was a bit of a mess. I'd love to see something a little more freeform. It doesn't need to be as robust as, say, an Assassin's Creed game, but especially in an open world game, it'd be nice if we weren't so severely limited in where we could climb. I'm not sure a system such as in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild would work perfectly either, though. It might be easier to implement, but I don't think Horizon is really a climb every mountain, ford every stream kind of game. Maybe what Horizon needs is to treat climbing as more of the means to an end, rather than a feature itself. Those slow motion shots were sometimes kinda cool, but in the end, they weren't worth the pain of the system's numerous flaws. Continuing the trend of Horizon's locomotion systems, one particular part of the game that I enjoyed was sliding around the world, shooting robot dinosaurs in the face. It was a fun system, but I'd love to see it made a little more robust. Specifically, I'd love to see it be more responsive to gravity. I can understand why they would want it to be more consistent from a game perspective, but from my time with Titanfall 2, I know just how fun it is to find a big ol' slope and a ton of enemies alongside it. In Horizon, you could slide for an extended period of time, but it had to be with a really steep slope, and those were found hardly anywhere in the game. I'm less set on the idea of changing how the slide works, but I think having the longer slide in the game could lead to some interesting planning and memorable moments. Another system Horizon Zero Dawn didn't do particularly well was its usable item system. I can't tell you how much time I spent furiously navigating the usables bar, looking for the health potion while a Thunderjaw barreled down on me, lasers on full bore. I got better over time, but it's a system that needs improvement. Maybe they could take a cue from the recently launched Monster Hunter World, with the addition of a radial favorites menu. Something like a favorites menu should be a simple enough change that implementing it should take minimal changing of the existing systems. Or maybe Guerrilla will come up with a better solution that they're far more qualified to make. Whatever happens, something needs to change. Something more original I'd like is more named machines, or at least more imposing robots. I think this is where maybe a scaled-down sort of nemesis system could be implemented if they felt really ambitious, and assuming it doesn't interfere with the quality of the rest of the game. Named machines could have minor aesthetic changes, have more health, be more aggressive, or maybe even have different elemental attacks and weaknesses. But perhaps it would be better to simply do something similar to Monster Hunter World, and have machines of all different sizes, with bigger versions being tougher to fight. They could even take the idea of Monster Hunter World's giant crown monsters, with specific recognition given to defeating particularly fierce machines. All this isn't necessary, but it lends itself well to my next idea. One thing that Horizon Zero Dawn seemed to lack was in-world recognition for your great hunts. Maybe there was something hidden away in a menu, but it'd be nice to have something in the actual game world to see what you've accomplished, to see some of the great machines you have felled. A trophy room would be a great addition to show some stats of the greatest hunts players have made. And with the possibility of different versions of machines, this could be made especially interesting to see the largest machines to be defeated. If a procedural system creating named machines was implemented, you could have specific trophies commemorating those fights. I think especially with the Hunter's Lodge, this could be a fun mechanic to keep players going out into the fray. The last thing I'll say that I specifically want is more interaction with the overridden machines. This would not only provide a natural progression to Aloy's story, it would help to provide new mechanics. Maybe it's a simple follow state command, or maybe it's something like being able to take over certain flying machines and chain overriding machines through it, or using some of the larger machines to remove certain obstacles, which could easily provide some Metroid-inspired exploration mechanics. In any case, I want more options than simply to have them fight for me or to ride them. Before I go, I'll close with a few things I specifically don't want to see in the next Horizon game. I don't want a bigger open world. The world Horizon Zero Dawn was plenty big. I would much rather Guerrilla focus on making the world more interesting than to be able to spout some ridiculous number on a fact sheet. Don't add any multiplayer elements. I really doubt this will happen, as one of Horizon Zero Dawn's major selling points was that it was a single-player focused game, but the fear is always there that someone will want to shoehorn in some resource-stealing multiplayer mode, again just to say they have it. Don't add dumb romance to the story. I think one of the biggest things that made Aloy an interesting character was that she wasn't bogged down with some romantic subplot. While there were some hints that something potentially between her and Erend or the Sun King of Odd, she made it clear that she was a woman on a mission. While I wouldn't be horribly opposed to seeing a romance part of the story, I'd rather see more like the interesting relationship she formed with the characters of Horizon Zero Dawn. Finally, don't make the game M-rated. I'm not necessarily opposed to games having mature content, but it's a breath of fresh air to have a game not thoroughly riddled with F-bombs and over-the-top violence. Not to mention Aloy was a great role model for young women, who wouldn't have as much access to an M-rated title. So those are my wishes for the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Maybe none of them will happen, because maybe all my ideas are stupid. In any case, I'm excited to see what Guerrilla has in store for us. Let me know in the comments what you think the next game should feature. Do you agree with any of my ideas? Think one is particularly bad? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.